Hey, good morning. Today I'm going to talk to you about Wiki Progress, which is an interactive web platform for sharing knowledge about progress measurement. Now, this means that the central purpose of Wiki Progress is to bring people together to talk about and use statistics. Now, this may not sound like the most exciting goal in the world, but I'm going to take the next few minutes that I have before the end of this session to try and convince you that statistics are actually a topic worth getting passionate about, and we need to get more people talking about and using statistics, and collective web platforms are a way to do this. Statistics are the navigation tools we choose as a society to get where we think we need to be, and as such they have a massive impact on our lives. They provide information about where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. They aren't neutral, ready-to-use numbers that appear out of nowhere. They exist because someone at some point decided that the underlying phenomenon was important to measure. Now, for most of the 20th century, the statistics which have been most prominent in policy and public debate, and which have had the most influence on people's lives, were selected by a small group of experts with the goal of economic growth in mind. There were good reasons for this. Coming out of the Depression in the 1930s and heading into the Second World War, the great powers needed to have a clear idea of what resources they had at their command and how to increase economic production. As a response, economists developed a kind of bookkeeping system for countries, national accounts, that allowed governments to keep a tab on all the transactions in goods and services that happened within the country. Based on this new system of accounting, they also developed a summary measure of economic activity, gross domestic product, or GDP, which brought together all the key information about the productivity of a nation into one number. Now, neither GDP nor national accounts were ever meant to be a reflection of the true welfare of a country, but because most experts assumed that economic prosperity was the most efficient way to improve people's lives, and because GDP was the best measure of prosperity, it became the primary statistical indicator, the main navigation tool for achieving overall well-being. Now, this is a problem because there's a lot GDP doesn't tell you. You've probably heard about the Beyond GDP movement at the European Commission, and you may have heard this quote before, but it's worth repeating just because it's nice to have a bit of poetry on a Wednesday morning. President Kennedy said, "GDP does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry, the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our wit nor our courage, neither our wisdom nor our learning, neither our compassion nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile." Numbers are powerful, though, and once you measure something, you tend to pay more attention to it. Although nobody ever claimed that economic growth was the only thing that mattered, the simplicity of GDP as a summary measure of progress meant that economic growth became the main goal of policy, with the understanding that economic growth would automatically lead to improvements in other areas of people's lives. However, in recent years, the drawbacks of focusing on GDP growth alone have become increasingly clear. Economic growth does not automatically lead to improved living conditions for all, and rising GDP levels can hide stagnating or even worsening levels of well-being in other important areas of people's lives. I'm just going to show you a quick chart. This shows GDP and life satisfaction in Egypt between the years 2005 and 2011. Now, as you can see, GDP rates rose steadily in the years preceding the Arab Spring. It showed no sense that there was something going wrong in the country and didn't convey anything about the dissatisfaction. However, if you look at this index, it's called a thriving index. It asks people how they feel their lives are at the moment and whether they think their lives are going to get better in the future. And you can see it very clearly. It shows that something was going wrong in the country. In fact, there have been more and more signs that relying on traditional macroeconomic indicators is sending us in the wrong direction. The economic crisis, rising inequality, and the increasingly obvious consequences of climate change. All of these are signs that it's becoming more and more urgent to find navigation tools that can guide us to a better future. We need statistics that reflect the fact that well-being for all, now and in the future, should be the ultimate goal of policy, and that economic growth is just one means to this end, not an end in itself. As a result, there has been an increasing call for broader measures of progress that go beyond GDP. Now, just as in the last century, the development of these new statistics has involved experts. Nobel Prize winners Amartya Sen and Joe Stiglitz have made a number of influential recommendations, and my own organization, the OECD, has developed a framework for measuring progress that includes health, education, social connectedness, environmental quality, happiness, along with jobs and income. But there's something different about this new movement to measure progress, because it involves not just statisticians and policymakers, but also civil society, community groups, businesses, trade unions, academics, and increasingly engaged members of the public. The diversity of this movement is a sign that progress statistics matter too much to be left to a small group of experts. In order to measure the true progress of our societies, we need to choose statistics that are a reflection of our fundamental values and of what matters most. And answering the question of what matters most is too important to leave to a small group of economists. Even the experts are recognizing that developing new measures need to involve a broader discussion about the meaning of well-being and progress. And there are a number of ways of doing this. For example, the OECD's Better Life Index allows users to rate the importance of different dimensions of well-being so that they can create their own personalized well-being index. And they can even choose to share these preferences with us so that we can get feedback about how different people have different preferences about dimensions of well-being in different countries and different genders and ages. The OECD is only one of hundreds of organizations around the world working on this complex issue, developing indicators of well-being and progress, sustainability, quality of life, and development. And they're working from areas that cover a small geographic area as a single neighborhood or town up to the entire globe. Over the last decade, the OECD has worked with many different passionate individuals and organizations, and we've organized 4 world forums, with a 5th one coming up next year in Mexico, that have brought together several thousand people over the years to learn from each other's experience. However, a conference every 2 to 3 years isn't enough. What we need is a broader and ongoing conversation. And this is where I come to Wiki Progress. Wiki Progress is a website hosted by the OECD, but it's open to all. It was originally set up to serve a community of experts and non-experts interested in all aspects of well-being measurement. And it's intended to be a place where people from all different backgrounds can share and find knowledge related to well-being and progress statistics. Just as the OECD forums help to bring the discussion about statistics to a broader audience, Wiki Progress is using the power of the internet and of interactive web platforms to scale this up exponentially. And at the moment, we have an average of around 20,000 monthly visitors. We have 3 broad objectives. First of all, it exists to be a reference tool and offers a space to share information, data, and resources for anyone interested in measuring progress. It's an open source platform, and anybody can contribute information in the form of articles, in terms of definition of terms or analysis of different well-being issues in different countries. At the moment, there are over 5,000 crowdsourced articles on the site. However, what we want to do now is move to a more data-based platform as well. Donatella Fazio will explain a little bit more about what we're doing with the Web Cozy project, but a major output will be to develop an open source data sharing portal which will allow people to upload, share, use and reuse all forms of data related to well-being and progress. Wiki Progress is also a community portal, providing a space for practitioners to share experiences learned from others. We have a blog, and we regularly organize online discussions to talk about topics that are of interest of the community. But our third and newest objective is to reach out to a broader audience of non-experts, engaging citizens and educating the public on the importance of developing better well-being and progress statistics. We're using social media to reach new people, but we intend to use our new data portal to engage users in creating stories and visualizations that highlight interesting patterns in the data, and that allow the underlying meaning to be more accessible to non-experts. While this is our newest objective, it's an essential one. The more people that are informed about the impacts of statistics on our lives and that are engaged in debates about the need for better measures, the more pressure there will be on governments to take well-being into account when designing and evaluating policy. At a presentation yesterday at the Catalyst workshop, Alberto Cottica from Wikitalia made the argument that in the 21st century, we are living in a more networked world and governments have to pay more and more attention to social movements. Everyone is a policymaker. I just want to end by saying that it's equally true that everyone is a statistician. If not necessarily being involved in the technical discussion of how to measure progress, in definitely being part of the discussion about what we need to measure, and more as we move into the open data movement as well, using in projects such as Code for America and other projects, using the data to create new solutions to social problems together. While it may not sound as exciting to be a statistician, it is just as important for ensuring our societies that they're heading in the right direction. Wiki Progress is a step towards this vision. Thank you.